What it was.
We are live. Whoop. A premium account access stores required or create live. Please upgrade. Okay, remove.
We're live, right, Adam?
We're live. Yep, we are live.
Great. Everybody come in for this one. Fun times. Florida State loses their week 0 matchup as a top 10 team, as a double-digit favorite on a walk-off field goal against Brent Key's Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in a game 24-21. To be quite honest with you, it didn't particularly feel that close. Florida State only got back to getting it even 21-21 on a really gutsy drive with multiple fourth down conversions. However, as kind of the story of the game went, they never got a chance to get the ball back. I think Florida State scored with about 6.5 minutes left to play, and Florida State never got the ball back again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to me, the story of the game, it's disappointing. Kev joining us. I'm sure he's very excited about this. They just outplayed you, dude. Both sides of the ball. They outplayed you. They definitely out-physicaled you. And I think not only on like the lines of scrimmage in a lot of those places, but just in just the general toughness of the running, always moving the piles forward.
We actually don't go to any practices. That's other guys. We don't actually go to any practices. We just watch film and talk about it. So
probably not a direct reference to us, if I'm going to be honest.
Don't care. Don't come in here and say it. Act like it is then.
Yeah, it's fine. And upsets are allowed to happen in college football anyway. Yep. So they out-physicaled you. I thought scheme-wise, their game plan for you on offense, you guys can correct me. You guys did a really good deep dive schematically. I don't think they did anything surprisingly schematically on offense. They just never had to change. They had about 336 total yards, 190 on the ground, 146 through the air. Mm-hmm. And that's not surprising. Georgia Tech has shown the propensity to really run the ball on everybody, particularly at the end of last year. And they did it again against a very vaunted Florida State defensive line. I don't know if I wasn't happy with the play of the defensive line, but I thought really, especially in the first half, your perimeter and your linebackers really let you down. And then on offense, I thought that was the story of the game because we knew that what Georgia Tech, their strengths were on offense, and they showed it. Now, they had shown to be a very suspect run defense last year. They had a whole slew of new people, a new defensive coordinator, and Tyler Santucci. Florida State ran for less than 100 yards.
But that's not a count on them not trying.
Yeah. Oh no, they like you said, 31 attempts, 3.2 yards per rush. Pretty grotesque. And I know that Santucci did a good job last year when he was the defensive coordinator at Duke, but they had to break in a lot of guys on their defense, and they did not respect your athletes on the outside. Now, Florida State did show some life at the end of that game in the fourth quarter, but for the most part, they didn't respect your guys on the outside. Your quarterback couldn't accurately deliver them the ball, and they came at you with a game plan to where it's the first game. It's a weird deal, Adam. But we hammered on this team that this was going to be a team that was going to be able to run the ball effectively on offense and stop the run on defense. And that was the identity.
Yeah.
That was the identity that we observed, that other guys on the staff observed in practice. That was the identity that was conveyed through multiple sources, not just 24/7. Yep. And that did not show up in Ireland. It was a team that still did not have an identity, and one that the response, I don't want to take away that like 14, 15 play, 84-yard drive with the multiple fourth down conversions. That was great, and hopefully they can use that as some motivation. But for 3.5 quarters, you look like crap, and you got beat up by Georgia Tech. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's going to be a lot of harping on the defensive effort, and there's plenty of reasons to do so, and I think it's warranted. You can't score 21 points against that.
Is it really the defense?
No. That's
is it really the defense?
Yeah, and I'm with you, Kev. So
you scored 21 points against a terrible defense.
I don't know. I mean, we all kind of felt like Georgia Tech was going to score 24 points.
That's going to be
ballpark.
That's a top 25 offense. That's going to be a good offense.
I don't know, man. I'm not trying to. I don't know. I'm just my thoughts are all kind of rattling around in my head. I'm anxious to watch it again. I'm trying to just.
I think now the output of like the Georgia Tech offense was around what everybody thought. I had them at 23. Everybody had them around 20 in the 20s, right?
They controlled the ball,
but it looked different. It looked like you said. It looked different as far as the physicality. So
But
that's
how they
fair.
play. That's how they coach defense. I mean, they
It
want
always
to.
has been. Bend but
Yeah,
no
they want to
break.
be in the light box, and they're content with you getting, moving the ball, and they just kind of feel like they're going to get stops when they need them. They didn't get them today. The tackling was really disappointing. The play of the interior is going to get talked about quite a bit, especially the D line. I want to watch it again, but it didn't feel good. It didn't look good.
Mhm.
But again, you are a 6-man box team. They played in a 6-man box. Georgia Tech took advantage of it. Like, look, all right, this is hot take, probably going to get in trouble. Why can't Mike Norvell fall in love with some of the gimmicky stuff on offense that everybody else in college football
He
does
refuses.
and can get free yards out of?
Like what? What specifically? What are you talking
I
about?
mean, we ran jet motion. You walk down the field on them the first time in the first series. I
Did you see it
think
again?
maybe there
Yeah.
were 5 more jet motions the rest of the game, maybe 6. Like, you can't just if you're not going to be able to out athlete people on the outside, you can't line up and expect to just be stagnant and win football games offensively.
Here's the thing.
They just do, and they do, and they do, and they do. And Jordan bailed you out in the past, and
Well, Kev, let's go to that. Let's go to that, Kev, because I know that you had a particular. They lost the game as a team. The only thing. Why are you putting those comments up, dude?
I'm trying to block these people.
Oh, okay. Anyway, yeah, whatever. It sucks, but it's whatever. It's
Yeah.
not like we haven't seen Florida State lose. Kev, from the offensive perspective, it looked really effective that first drive. It looked different. We thought that there was going to be like an amalgamation of like how much of the stuff from Oregon State that DJ was good at is Mike going to do, and how much of this and that. And we came out, and you guys noticed a lot of like Malzahn flavor to it. What did you see on that first drive that was encouraging? What did they largely go to for the most part of the game? And what did Georgia Tech do to really nullify? Like, why was Florida State? It was a complete team loss, but if you had to pick, the offense was worse than the defense, in my opinion. It's relative to expectations, and especially against the type of unit you were playing against, the offense was far worse. But what did you see, Kev, on the offensive side? Why were they so nullified?
Yeah, I think AB nailed it. They had a creative look. You're hamstrung
every game.
You're hamstrung by your quarterback. You're hamstrung by your quarterback. He was not effective throwing the ball or running the ball in the first 3 quarters of the game. So you've got to be able to run the ball. You've got to be able to run the ball effectively. I think that they thought they could just run the ball all over Georgia Tech and didn't need the window dressing. And when that proved to be false, it took them 3 extra quarters before they said, hold on, we can't just push this team around, because they were here's the thing about the talk about the defensive lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both teams knew that the other team was going to run the ball 70% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
One team decided to keep 2 safeties back, decided to slow play the run, decided to bring them down late. The other team was trying to shoot their safety through the A gap. I bet you Georgia Tech secondary made as many tackles as their defensive line at the point of attack, at the line of scrimmage. You were not helping your defensive line. You were trusting them to win the game, and they didn't win the game. But I mean, Georgia Tech was keeping you from running the ball, and you weren't doing enough things to stop them from keeping, like, you weren't keeping them honest until the last drive, when you finally said, if they're going to bring 8 every play, I might as well throw some easy completions and get chunk plays. I don't know why it took them 3 quarters, but that's a sign they didn't trust DJ, and that's a concern.
Do you agree with that, Adam? I mean, I think you could tell by the type of throws that they asked. That first drive, you could tell like some easy throws to get him into easing it into the offense. But we expected a vertical offense that relied off an effective running game. They didn't really get to that till the end when they were forced. I mean, was it just, do you think it's a trust thing? There were some, for 3.5 quarters, he was, I don't care what the numbers say. I know at one point he was like 11 of 12 or 12 of 14. The accuracy was very scattershot, especially on some of those shot plays early. Did you think it's more of a trust thing? Do you think it was more confidence in the running ability? I'm with you, Kev. The contrast in the defensive philosophies from teams that like to do the same thing offensively, like conceptually, was so different, but it was also so obvious. Georgia Tech wasn't very minus the eye candy on offense, I feel like they were very honest. They were very intentional. We're
Mhm.
going to run the ball at you. We're going to run the same motion every single play. We're going to run a couple plays. And then on defense, you're not going to be able to run the football. So do something about it. And there was never the counter adjustment till the very end. And then it was just too late. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I don't know. It feels weird. Like is it they don't trust DJ, they don't trust the wide receivers or playmakers on the outside. You start the game with like 8 plays under or 8 throws under like a yard or whatever. It's very, I don't know. It's weird. I listen, I do want to rewatch it again just to maybe
And we will
have some better takes when we do our film review. But yeah, I mean, it felt like he didn't trust DJ. It felt like he didn't trust anybody on the outside either. I mean, you don't even throw really anything to the wide receivers over a yard until the second half of the game. I think I can recall 3 passing concepts in the game itself, off the top of my head, and they all came in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It screams we've got a passing game problem that's been talked about quite a bit. It screams we've got a passing game problem and we don't know how to solve it. I don't know, man. I'm trying not to say anything stupid here that's going to get.
Well, that's okay. Well, do you think that
I'm frustrated? I'm frustrated with Mike because I don't think he's putting guys in good positions at this point. That stuff worked with Jordan, and it worked with Keon, and it worked with Johnny. Like, why the name of these guys' game is speed, and you're not really letting them use it. You're not really letting them use it as far as running across the field, running away from some of these zone coverages and man coverages. It just doesn't seem to exist right now in this passing offense. Now, maybe some of that is they don't trust DJ. They know he's a one-read quarterback and he really can't come off of it. There were plenty of examples in the game today where he got stuck staring at Malik Benson and wouldn't come off the ball to an open deuce span. There was another example at another point, and I can't remember who the player was, but man, this was a frustrating loss, a really frustrating loss. I mean, we were throwing a back shoulder fade to Kyle Morlock on a 3rd and long. Is that where we're at? Because if it is, Mike needs to take a hard look in the mirror and decide about what.
Well, it seems like he thought it was going to be man coverage. It wasn't, and he wasn't able to get off that read. There were several times where he could. A lot of people saying it wasn't DJ that lost the game, and I agree with that. I don't think
I disagree.
He made mistakes, but I do think that he wasn't. They didn't trust him enough to win the game, and I do think there were a couple misreads. I think there were a couple misthrows that don't show up in the. Everybody gets so worried about completion percentage, and completion percentage is just not a really useful stat. If you throw the ball, if you throw 100 screen passes, you're going to have a great completion percentage. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, this comment to me kind of, this was the one that was head scratching. It's the fastest, most athletic team. Norvell has said it all offseason.
They didn't put him in position to be athletic.
Well, I was going to say they're just hard
to be athletic and fast, but if you don't let them be that in the game, then what good is it?
Yeah, so they throw for 0 yards on AZ, but 300 on DJ Lundy, then who cares how good AZ is?
Yeah. Right. Now, Kev, question to you as far as like the offense, because the stuff where they get with the athletic, the strength, those are based off like hard GPS, like raw physical data. Like that's not a lie. Now, if the coaches don't call the right plays or use the right philosophy or put them in the position to utilize that speed, which is a hard quantifiable trait, that's on the coaches. Now, Kev, do you think based on some of the things that you saw, the first drive and the last drive, the 2 touchdown scoring drives that you saw at the end, is there enough raw material if it's used differently to where Florida State can have an offense that's effective? Do you think that, or do you think that this is going to be something we're going to have to deal with all year? Or did the passing game show enough juice at the end to be like, hey, it is actually there. You can have more trust in a quarterback than converted 2 4th and forevers on the same drive. To me, I hope that you can use that as a catalyst to awaken, because this is just the first game and what could be a pretty disappointing season. But once again, it's also the first game against a very competent conference opponent. So once again, we don't really know how good each team is yet. But Kev, do you think that the structure's there to where this team can up the production?
I mean, yeah, you saw it. You saw when they were scripted, they had creative play calls, then they had motions. You saw this is like.
Wait, you'll get your chance, Adam. You'll get your chance. Kev, go ahead, and then I want to hear Adam's comments.
You saw on that last drive, like when you just let DJ air it out, like if teams, they said you're not going to run the ball, and Florida State didn't believe them for 3 quarters. They stubbornly kept running into this box, and you can't do that. Like, I mean, you can. They thought that they could get away with it, and to be
We
honest,
tried.
they almost got away with it, because they were worried that they were thinking that the running game and our defense is going to win this game, and the only thing that's going to stop us from winning this game is DJ losing this game by making a dumb mistake. And it turns out that they were wrong. They were wrong about their evaluation of being able to run down Georgia Tech's throat no matter what, and it put them in a position where their offense was non-existent for 3 quarters. And
outside of 2 drives, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really outside of 2 drives. And so, yeah, can this offense be okay? Yeah, I think you need a better mix of run and pass, or you need DJ to be a better runner. Like, let's be real. It's not like Haynes King was really dotting up everywhere. He wasn't just like killing you, but he was an active positive on every run play that DJ wasn't. And so, if he's not going to give you a lot in the run game, he's not going to give you a lot in the pass game. Like,
what are we doing?
What are you doing? Right. You've got to be able to open it up somehow, because they did not respect anything that you were doing.
To that point, that's a good point. Haynes King rushing 15 carries for 54 yards to go with his 146, like through the air, like not a ton, but DJ 6 carries for 7. That's a strength. That's strength. He's a different runner than King, but even in like short yardage situations, there was just an air of like tentativeness that had befallen over the team and the entire game, really, except for the special teams, dude. Cotton Fitzsimmons, that kid, dude, great. Thank God he was on the team, man. The redemption, his story has been awesome, but nobody wants to hear about positive stuff right now. Adam, you had some comments while Kev was talking. Do you believe that they have the raw material to construct a functional offense against
good opponents? Definitely. You saw juice from Jalen Lucas, LT. Roydell's consistent. He's not going to give you splash plays. That's quite clear to me.
Yeah, he did
not going to break a lot of tackles. He's not going to do a lot beyond what's just there as the play is designed. But LT, Jalen Lucas, Jalen Brown was non-existent today, but he looks fun running around out there. Malik Benson looks like a player who can give you some competent play. You didn't get to see Morlock, but I thought Morlock was open a few times. They just didn't throw the ball to him. Kentron was a positive.
Ja'Kai, nice catch on the sideline.
Nice catch. I mean, that's a touchdown. DJ just misses him. I think Mike's going to have to open the offense up. Yeah, I think he's got to. I think he's got to take a long look in the mirror and say, this stuff of like maybe, just maybe, 22 was an anomaly for this run game. I mean, I said it all last year. The run game was not good.
Oh, well,
it just wasn't that good.
It was average. It wasn't
2022. It was 2022. It was a good run game. It hasn't been good since. It wasn't good today. It was okay. It had its moments. They're just not. I don't what it is. They're not going to be able to just line up and run the football, people, until maybe they decide to start running DJ. I don't know why they didn't include him. So I don't know why they didn't include Jordan in the run game last year either. I mean, I have a lot of questions. I don't understand a lot of the decisions they're getting made, but those guys are freaking hell of a lot smarter than I am. I mean, Mike knows what he's doing. I trust that they'll go back to the whiteboard and figure some things out between now and the next game, and it will look better than it did today. And I think at some point, to credit, like,
absolutely,
they played their asses off. I didn't think Florida State played with an edge at all today. I thought they played really timid, really passive.
It looked like they were playing not to lose.
Yeah,
Florida State did. Yeah, absolutely. They played. They had a great scheme that wasn't necessarily complex. It was pretty easy to figure out. We all knew what they were going to do, but man, they played disciplined, tough, aggressive, physical football, and they popped you in the mouth both sides of the ball all game. I 100% agree with that. They were better prepared, which is not something we're used to saying with the Mike Norvell. Yeah, with the Mike Norvell team with that much time to prepare. And I'm with you, Adam. I think that there will be different. Mike Norvell is not the type of guy. He's not what everybody would ever call a conservative coach. You could tell by a lot of his fourth down math, the game logic, which he manages games. But, dude, I don't think he's the type of guy that wants to watch his offense lose a bunch of close, like 4 and 3 point games. It's like, if you're going to go down with doing what you do, being a vertical passing merchant. Like it just,
Yeah.
it was disappointing. It was such a disappointing effort. Like
There was not a single shot play like off of play action. I don't think the Jakai one was. It was a deep crosser, which we talked about.
We talked
The
about
Malik,
how, yeah, Adam
the
and
Malik one
Kevin.
wasn't. I don't know. It was a weird game, which is really weird. I don't know if is it the week 0 stuff. Like they just don't feel like they've got it all in. DJ's only been here for 8 months. Like they feel like they've got to be limited. Is this what a Mike Norvell offense looks like with a brand new quarterback? I mean, we talked in the past about how much better they get from year 1 to year 2 and year 2 to year 3 and all that. Like, is that just what this looks like because there's so much of it?
Well, and number one, that makes sense. But DJ Uyongale is 23 years old. He's got 1 year left. Let it rip, dude. And maybe it was just a false belief that our defense and our running game, we can gut it out until we have the time where there's more comfort in the office. There's more integration with the wide receivers and him. You don't have time. You need to open it up now. Like you got to you can't put a governor on yourself from what you do. Now, if it was a self-imposed governor because you didn't want to make mistakes, okay, take it off. If it was a true governor based on the abilities of the guys in the offense, then you got a problem. So we talked about the offense. That's something that we're going to look at very close on film review. What they did, specifically what they didn't do, what they continued to try to do over and over. It was a very insanity-laden game plan.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff you did didn't work, and you did it 9 million times.
I got to get out of here, guys.
You're fine. Go ahead, Adam. Have fun.
You.
Kid's birthday party. Let's just hopefully there's no Florida State fans there. All right. So Adam's gone. Kev, one thing on the defense before we go. It seemed like Georgia Tech, I mean, they just did the same thing 8,000 times, but they found a hole. And we talked about before the season the linebacker position. We talked about it in much of the same vein as we did the wide receiver position. Today, I thought that the athleticism of the linebackers got picked on, and I think the perimeter got exposed a little bit in the running game. Do you think that that's something that's going to continue to plague Florida State all season, or was it a function of the game plan that Adam Fuller employed?
Yeah, so you're going to play a lot of man coverage. Who's the players that are playing in coverage that's the slowest? Well, it's going to be your linebackers, right? So who does it make sense to go after if you're throwing against man coverage? Well, it makes sense to throw after the linebackers. We thought Florida State would be better off in this matchup than they proved to be. Georgia Tech had a lot of turnover in the tight end department, but it turns out it didn't matter. FSU struggled to keep up with them in space, and there are a few key situations where Florida State's gonna be playing man coverage. You can rely on that, and I'm gonna leak my running back or my tight end out to the flats, get an easy completion, and get some yards after the catch. Run everybody else downfield, and take advantage of these slower guys out in space. I thought DJ Lundy looked slow. I thought that he was a target on several key plays. I thought that was something that seemed like a clear, focus for Georgia Tech's offense. So extended plays. I think Georgia Tech had a decent offensive game plan, and they executed it. I think that you got them into third down situations and they converted because, Haynes King is a good ball player. They made a few good throw and catches. And I think your linebackers got kind of worked in space. I thought Kevin Knowles had 1 or 2 times where he got burned a little bit, but they knew what you're doing. And last year you were able to shut down teams despite that. This year didn't seem to be the case. They were able to extend drives and really work a clock where you're hoping to get them off the field on 3rd and 6s.
The clock's an interesting point, and I think I'll get to that. I think the one thing, I think the limited athleticism of the linebackers really, Haynes King knew he could get the angle on Florida State's second level all the time and get an easy 3 to 6 yards, and that extended drives. The thing about that is the pace of play. Florida State did not play this game like they had a talent advantage to leverage. They were really fine at playing at the pace of Georgia Tech. There was no sense of urgency. I noticed it a lot, even with 3 timeouts. The end of the second quarter drive, there was just no urgency. There was no willingness to kind of like sell out like they had to do at last from like the second half of the Clemson game on. And if you get burned, you get burned. But if you have more possessions, your talent advantage should naturally take over. It was weird. It was like Georgia Tech wanted to play at like almost a service academy plays at pace, and Florida State was obliged to meet them there. Like, okay, 10-minute drives, that's on the menu today. And you end up scoring 21 points against a brand new defense that was terrible last year.
Yeah.
What do you make of the pace? Am I reading too much into the pace? I didn't understand that they played passive and they played slow, which is it's a worrying combination.
Yeah, I think part of that might be that Georgia Tech was taking long drives. That means your defense was on the field for a long time and your offense was struggling to move the ball. So you couldn't trust them to consistently get first downs. So if you want to keep your defense fresh, you've got to hold the ball for a little bit. So that could play into it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a story that we've seen before, where Florida State doesn't necessarily in a hurry. And I think part of that is them trying to make checks at the line, trying to get good angles for the run game, trying to do that little thing that they do, which tends to work. But I think in the past, what happened over the past 2 years is when you get into that fourth quarter and it's 21-21, Haynes King was to other people what Jordan Travis has been for us. Haynes King went out and made those clutch plays, made the situations happen. And we lost the quarterback battle that determined that fourth quarter. The DJ was fine in the fourth quarter. I think he made a few great throws and was called upon on like really difficult situations. But when you had Jordan Travis, you would win those games. When you don't, you don't. You need to figure out how to not be in the game against Georgia Tech in the fourth quarter. And I don't think running the clock and shortening the game is the answer.
No, neither do I. Because I'm with you. There's a lot of guys on this team that have been a part of winning programs, but they haven't been the crucial parts of those like big, crazy wins like Kalen DeLoach was at Clemson and Jared Verse was against Louisville. They've been on the team. They've been participatory, but it's a lot different when you were the guy that has to make the play that Verse made, that Jordan Travis made, that Braden Fisk made, that Kalen DeLoach, Tatum Bethune made. And we assume that to be automatic just because it's the same coaching staff and a lot of the same guys were on that team last year, but it's not. It's a learned skill, and this team does not have it yet. And once again, the same things that plague the offense from like a identity perspective. If you're gonna lose, like, why do you want to just lose a slow, torturous, brutal death? I mean, it just. I don't know, man. It was a disappointing game, and I don't really have too much more to add because you just literally got beat up by Georgia Tech in 2 out of 3 phases of football. Your special teams were phenomenal, and they kept you in the game on some kicks that, like, I don't know what the percentage of that in college football of 52 and 59-yard field goals. It's low. They kept you in a game that I don't know, man. Georgia Tech beat you up. There's really not much. You got outplayed, you got outcoached, and they showed up prepared, and you weren't as much. Kev, do you have anything else you want to add to this? I'm sure the comments are extremely interesting. I don't know if we want
lots of Miami fans.
Yeah, well, they got nothing else. I don't blame them. Why wouldn't you say? Why wouldn't you come in, dude?
Sure, welcome.
It's
come on.
fine. And that's a team that I don't want to take a 1-game sample size and like say my expectations are now it's a 7-win football team and this and this and that, right? Teams evolve over the course of a season, right? Either positively or negatively. And this is a massive wake-up call. Hopefully you like to get these wake-up calls and close wins. But do you have anything else you want to add? Like, I don't want to use this as a blueprint to like, oh man, now this isn't the type of team we thought it was. But I will say it's a team that is not so great at a lot of things we at least had confidence they'd be great in.
Yeah, I think that's the most harrowing thing, right? You had the first drive, you said, Georgia Tech knows we're going to run the football. It didn't matter. We pushed it down their throat. That didn't happen. The running backs were easy to tackle. The line didn't hold blocks long enough. You couldn't hold blocks on the outside on screen passes. You couldn't do what you were promising you could do.
Mm-hmm.
This offense wasn't as good at running the ball as we were hoping they would be, right? They weren't great at running the ball last year. They were above average, and then, Trey Benson made some explosives for you.
Yep.
You're hoping another year of experience would help some of these guys out. That offensive line didn't blow me away. The right tackle position is a liability against good defensive ends, and you saw that a few times.
Seems to be, yeah.
This coaching staff has always been okay running into loaded boxes. That's always something they've done. It's always something they say, it doesn't matter, we're still going to run the ball. And I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to do that this year. And that's a real concern because Jordan Travis bailed you out. He bailed you out a lot when running the ball into effectively a wall of people didn't work for the first 2 downs. So they got to reevaluate who they are, because they're not last year's team. I mean, that's clear, right? They're not going to have Jordan Travis to bail them out. And not to say that DJ played a terrible game, but they didn't let him bail him out. He wasn't, like through 3 quarters, there was no situation where he was going to, do it for you. There were a few throws that need to be made, period.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't know how much of the shackles are put on him or whatever, but he played bad for 3 quarters, and he had a great drive. But it's
great completion percentage.
I'm with you, Kev. It's one of those things we always praise being patient with the run game. You're always walking the fine line between patience and stubbornness. And I think that with a team with a lot of depth, but not so much the talent ceiling, I think you're going to have to be flexible earlier as far as like what your offensive principles are. And if you're going to go out, you can't have like a bunch of like soul crushing 3 and 4 point defeats, because this is a schedule that's not like earth shatteringly difficult, but there's not a lot of like incompetent teams on here, right? There's a lot of teams where you've got like 65% win probabilities. And if you shorten the possessions and have a close game for a long time, it's college football, man. It's 18 to 23-year-old kids. Like, you're playing a dangerous game. So we will see. We are going to look at a lot of stuff on film. This one sucked. And I tell you what, it sucks for a lot of people to spend thousands of bucks to be there and see that in person, man. You want to talk about it? It's one thing to be disappointed in your couch. It's another thing to be 13 pints deep, disappointed in a Viva Stadium, or like dude, I know that it's like 95-5 Florida State fans. Dublin is an angry city right now because those 5 are going to be chirping as well. They should, man. They came out and they slapped us around. Totally sucks. I hate it. I'm putting on a way happier face than I am personally. I don't really have anything else to add, just because there's nothing earth shattering, man. They just kicked your ass.
Yeah, they played the better game. I thought I think Georgia Tech knew the terms of the game. Georgia Tech knew that this was going to be a run-first game for both teams, and they decided to stop the run and force DJ to beat him over the top. Florida State knew this was going to be a run-first game. They decided to sit back and, trust their defensive line to win without much help behind them, and they didn't. And I don't understand that. This feels a lot like Louisville 2 years ago, where they just Malik Cunningham run for 300 yards against them because they just refuse. It seems okay. I need to watch the film. I'm probably making this statement too much, but it seems like they were too okay letting Georgia Tech run the ball. The bend but don't break works wonderfully against pass first teams, but against these teams that are willing to run the ball 40 times, 50 times, and do it well, I'm not convinced that's a strategy that is going to work this year.
I agree. Well said, my man. I don't really have anything else to add. At least this one's over quick. So whatever you guys, enjoy the rest of your Saturday if you can. Week 0 sucks because nobody else is really playing and everybody watched your team lose. So it's going to be a long week on the Twitters and the social media and in your office, especially where I'm in Iowa and I'm the only Florida State fan. So it's like, hey, bro, what happened with that one? Well, you saw it. It sucked and it was terrible. So anyway, we'll be back. We're going to review the film. We're going to really give you as much nuance as we can, and got some stuff to clean up, guys. Keep chopping.